Hello and welcome to the very first A Nerdy Journey podcast episode, the podcast where we talk to filmmakers about their journeys into the entertainment industry. I'm A.K. Moore and I'm a media manager and post-producer at a commercial production company here in Los Angeles. I've also co-produced 2 independent features and have worked as a sound mixer and colorist on several other films. My guest today is my good friend, producer-director Julia Tranfaglia. She's currently in pre-production directing her first horror feature while producing several video ads for companies like Thought Industries. Without further ado, let's get to the interview. Julia, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you on the first episode of A Nerdy Journey, so let's see how this goes.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, well, as one of my oldest LA friends and longest collaborators, it's only fitting to have you on as one of the first people. And to that end, I know that you have a lot of very exciting projects that you are working on coming up, and I will get to that towards the end. But let's start at the beginning of your journey. What first got you into filmmaking to begin with?
Well, it wasn't something that I thought could be a career. I know a lot of people say that, but it was very much just a joy for me out of getting to watch movies with my family and connecting. And, you know, in my free time as a kid, I would watch all the behind the scenes on DVDs and VHS, the featurettes. And I just thought it was so magical seeing how they made fantasy come to life and just all the different elements that got brought together. I just thought it was the most amazing thing. And, you know, when it came time to decide what I wanted to do with my future and my career, eventually it made sense to me that a lot of my interests kind of all converged in filmmaking and videography and whatnot. And so I thought, you know what, let's go into that field.
Did you make that decision before you went to college or when you were already at college?
I made that decision in high school looking at colleges. So very much did the whole film school thing and tried to go a traditional route into a very non-traditional career. And that's because I was debating engineering and more technical fields. And I think there are a lot of those aspects in filmmaking that made that make sense for me at the time. And, you know, I found Emerson and it had that creative aspect that I really loved. And I just thought, you know, I think I can make money doing this.
When you were searching for next steps, so you were going to college, was there ever a moment where you thought, should I just try to go right into the industry, or were you always going to college no matter what?
College was something that was really valued at my public school. You know, it was very much the thing you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think I didn't come from connections. I didn't come from a place that had a lot of filmmaking. You know, I'm from Massachusetts and now there's more of an industry, but at the time I think I needed that structure and that network and those resources to just get off the ground. I didn't know where to begin, you know? There wasn't somebody I could really talk to that would be like, oh, you know, try this, come out to LA, work this job. Like I had none of that. So I think for me, college really was a nice first step.
I guess it lets you make mistakes in a safer environment, even though sometimes the professors don't always make it feel like it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah. And even that intro of like, oh, here's what a film is. Here's like the first directors that ever made cameras, you know, it just those resources and that network of collaborators and that safe space to make mistakes is so invaluable.
Oh, absolutely. When you were deciding on colleges, obviously you just said that you wanted to major in film. You made that decision before you went to college, that's what you wanted to do. So that obviously influenced where you went. What other factors besides just knowing that you wanted to go into filmmaking made you choose Emerson?
It was really tough because financially, it was not an easy choice for me. And particularly with filmmaking, you know, you can go and study videography, broadcast, filmmaking. They're all very different and different colleges will provide you different resources. Emerson spoke to me because it was in my home city. It was a smaller school, so you'd get more one-on-one time with professors, which I really valued. I didn't want to just be a number. And they're much more indie filmmaking based, which I really appreciated, and it was filmmaking specific. You know, I debated other schools like UMass Amherst, but I think it would have been a very different path and a different situation to be learning in. So Emerson just was like, that was it for me.
That makes sense. And when it comes to, obviously, getting the education is only maybe like a third of the battle, if that, because, you know, I'm sure I'll have guests on in the future that will debate whether or not college was or was not worth it. For you, would you say college was worth it?
It was worth it for me because it led to so many things. And I don't think it's worth it for everyone. Let me caveat that. I think it's great and it can provide so many resources. And even later in life, if you go to film school, I know we have friends that have done that and found a lot of value in it, but plenty of people don't, and they don't need to spend all that money, and they can just maverick their way in and go different routes. I mean, this industry is so much about make it your own and make it your own path. There is no set path, is what everybody will tell you. But for me, it really helped. And I wouldn't have met any of the people I've met, including you, if I hadn't gone. So
I guess that is one of the more interesting points, which is the connections that you build. Do you feel like that was more or less one of the biggest things to come out of your, I guess, college days?
Yeah, it gave me a start, you know, getting to meet different people, getting connected to internships. It wasn't though that like college necessarily gave me those internships. It just, I think, opened my eyes up to the opportunities that were out there. And, you know, you get your first director that you're like, I'm going to PA for you, or you get your first, you know, random set that you'll be a part of, and it leads to the next one and the next one. And that's kind of what it was as a starting place. And even that shorthand of being like, oh, I'm from Emerson, or like, oh, I went to Emerson back in the day. And somebody else who's 20 years older than you is like, oh, me too. You know, that ended up leading to a faster connection in the workplace for me.
Nice. I have a lot of very similar stories where I can directly track back to the job that I currently have going to UCF.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, it is very convoluted, but if I did not go there, I would not be where I am today. Through very, very loose, this person who I went to school with recommended me to this job, that then that person got another job that then brought me on. And yeah, it's definitely convoluted, but you can track it back to where I went. And I mean, obviously I can't say that had I gone somewhere else, I wouldn't be at a better place or a worse place. You don't know, but I definitely think for myself as well, the networking and just making truly lifelong good friendships was one of the best things to come from it.
Honestly.
And I guess in terms of getting industry experience, you also interned out in LA before you did, I guess, your full final I'm going to live here decision. How did you get that internship?
Ooh, that was a tough summer, I remember, because I graduated early, so I had like only half a semester, and that was my senior year, and it was going to be out here. And I took the LA semester through Emerson as my opportunity to move out here and to try to figure out who I was going to live with first off. And, you know, it's a requirement that you get an internship out here. And I was up to the minute. I was interviewing at production companies in my Airbnb before moving in. You know, I kicked my whole family out. I was like, I'm going to take this Zoom call. Like, let me focus. And I had my internship with one of my long-term clients at that time that I still, you know, produce and direct for, Thought Industries. And the people there were so supportive as I was like desperately trying to get an internship. But I was very lucky that I ended up interning with Film Nation Entertainment, and they're very much your classic indie, bigger budget, wonderful production company.
Award-winning.
That helps. And their films were just so inspiring to me early on. So I felt very blessed to be there and to be a part of it at that time.
Obviously, we've both been through the rat race of internship applications and job applications to begin with. How do you feel like you landed the internship that you had? Was it just through an online application? Did you know somebody there? Like, how did your school help you? What do you think were the things that led you to successfully landing that?
I won't lie, the name Emerson on my resume didn't hurt. Not that it secured it for me. It's just one of those things as part of the interview process. They're looking at your experience and they say, oh, you did this internship. Oh, you know this thing. And I interviewed and I found, God, I don't even remember how I found them anymore. I mean, I do remember I found Thought Industries, which was a paid internship, one of the few. That was on Handshake, which was like a LinkedIn for college students. But Film Nation, I might have direct applied, honestly. You know, I just had to hunt down these different companies and see where I wanted to go. I remember looking up HBO, and it's such a big pool of applicants.
Oh my God, yeah.
But
Yep.
you just got to do your homework, you know?
Yeah. The only reason I had my internship out here is because one of my friends worked on a set in Orlando, and the production company was based in Los Angeles, and they told him that he could intern over the summer there. And so I'm like, hey, do you know if they have any other internships available? Because I applied everywhere. And I was, the standard, you're not even getting rejected, you're just not even hearing back, which is that lovely sense of, when you're applying to HBO and NBC and all these other ones. And I just remember him saying, yeah, I think they do have one more available. He gave me the number of the producer to call. We scheduled an interview, and I got the job like a month before I had to come out here for the internship. And oh boy, that was probably one of the more stressful moments of my college life. You're like, what are you doing if you don't get that internship? And it's so hard. They make you jump through so many hoops. Boy, just like you do, I wish I had some nepotism on my side.
It definitely helps. I'm not gonna lie.
It really does. And I will never hold that against anybody who who's able to get where they want to go. I like doctors, lawyers, everywhere. It's just, that's the way the world is, as long as history has been around. Did you know that? Or is your family member one of those people? Okay, great. You can now work in the family practice. It's just, obviously, when you're in the public eye as an actor or something, it's a lot clearer. But to that end, I don't fault anybody for using their maximum resources. I would do the same if I could.
Good. I mean, that's the idea, right? It's not even just nepotism, like, oh, you're one in the family and, because you're my nephew, you're going to get it. It's also like, oh, you're a trusted friend. I know you, you're reliable. You're going to show up and actually do the work. I don't have to worry. That can also be nepotism, but not in the way that everybody, I think, paints it so negatively. I mean, it's just, this whole industry is built on trust.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that, then you can't be hiring people. And the nepotism is that shorthand.
Yeah. I definitely cannot recommend, people to jobs if I don't know what their work ethic is and how do I trust them. If somebody says, hey, do you have a PA or a first AC or somebody who, you can recommend to me? I need to know that when I send you there, you're not going to embarrass me, because then that person won't ask me again and then I'm out of a job.
True. It's true.
It's very rough. I mean, reputation is everything, and I fully understand why, when you're a college student right out of college trying to break into the industry, everybody is so hesitant to want to hire you, because it is like if you screw up, it's their ass on the line for it. And that's probably more of an issue with expectations and how we run things in general, more so than an indictment. That's just an indictment on how the system is run in general. Is what I'm trying to say. There should be a little bit more room for error, especially if you're brand new. You should be allowed to be brand new and make a mistake. That is the gist of what my very exhausted end of the week brain is trying to say.
I feel that, and very much I'm in that boat after this week. Mistakes are important learning experiences.
Yeah.
And I take similar but different. My saying is rejection is just redirection,
Sure. I think, the one story we all cling to with that is Harry Potter, right? You always hear about, well, J.K. Rowling had to go to X amount of publishers before she got it done. It's just believing in yourself and what you're doing and getting to find the right person who is willing to take that leap as well.
Exactly.
So you landed the internship. You did that for summer. How long did you have that internship for?
From August to December of, so that would be like 5-6 months.
Wow.
And I was also working at the time. And then, you're out in the world, you're living in LA, and I've been freelancing since day one. many people take different routes. And I remember one of the things that I was advised after Film Nation was, if you want to work here and be an assistant one day, you have to go be an assistant at agencies first and get your sea legs. So, I mean, that's a very different route that I didn't take, road less traveled or other, diverging roads, whatever it might be. That's another route people can take, is go be an assistant or an executive assistant somewhere, go learn from the people doing the work. And agencies are such a crux of the whole industry.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I do know people who have done the agency route. It's not for me.
Me neither.
At all. I wholly respect anybody who is able to go through that, survive, and make a good career for themselves. And I know a lot of times they say that they only want to take people who want to do agency work, and I fully get that. I mean, we all lie on every single resume when we say that that's the job that we want because we just need a job. I know people who have applied to the DGA Assistant Directors Program who said, "Yes, I want to be an assistant director," and fully knowing that they want to be a director, which they are not looking for in the DGA program to begin with. But you have to get your start somewhere, and if you're willing to do the job for X amount of time to get the experience while you build up the other side of your portfolio of what you want to do, you still have to pay bills, you still have to gain experience, and get that how you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's something interesting about your situation, because when I trying to think back about talking about, how'd you get your first job in LA, or how'd you get your first production job, you kind of had that already when you moved out here with Thought Industries. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So, as I kind of mentioned, while I was applying to internships in LA, I had already been a paid intern of Thought Industries in Boston. And when I moved out here after that, when my internship there was done and I was starting Film Nation, they were like, we love your work. Why don't you just stay on and freelance for us, produce and direct as needed? And I've been doing work for them ever since. And the beauty of that is it's always given me freedom to do other projects, other clients as well. And so some of the other jobs I would take, very Maverick style, my first few months out here, it's like Facebook groups, finding PA jobs, finding assistant camera jobs, second AC in particular.
Yeah.
Just any kind, I gaffed. I at that point when I was graduating college, I wanted to be a cinematographer. And as I was coming out here and working in the industry, I think you start to figure out what you're good at and what lifestyle is going to work for you. And I sort of fell more into producing and directing. And TI, I think, gave me that kind of foundation to realize, I can do this. And then I started collaborating with people like you, like Michael, and, doing short films and doing other commercial work. And I just kind of realized, okay, that's what I should be doing.
Awesome. And I guess what Thought Industries gave you is you are their internal director, producer, editor of all their video content, essentially. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes and no. I'm not internal.
Okay.
It's just that I've freelanced for them, but I've worked with them for like 5.5, probably going on 6 years now. And so as a longtime business client of mine, I think there's a lot of personal trust there too, right? We talk about nepotism earlier. It's not even nepotism like, you knew somebody and you got the job. It was more along the lines of, we trust you, we've seen the work you're doing. And I think that's probably the best advice I could give somebody trying to get a more creative or above the line job is no one's going to pay you to do something until they know you can do it. Because you wouldn't hand somebody like 10K and say, hey, please go make this thing for me. And then they can't at all because you have no idea that if they're going to be able to deliver or not. So I think that's why it was such a great opportunity for me. And I got lucky in that way that I had those opportunities early on.
You just made an interesting point, and specifically about people needing to know that you can do the job. I know we mentioned this briefly earlier, but what it reminded me of is student films, for example, or short films in general. There's always the question of, are short films worth it? And I think the answer is yes and no, depending on what you're trying to do. I think if you're trying to become the next person who gets a Marvel movie because they directed a short film, I think the answer is probably that's not the best route to do, because, you know, short films that are great for a lot of things. It teaches you how to do stuff on the micro scale. It teaches you, you know, production management, directing, you know, everything that you need to do on a micro scale. And just because it's micro scale doesn't mean it's not hard. Making a short film is ridiculously hard. Getting people's schedules to line up, getting the money to just even feed people, equipment, all that stuff. It teaches you so much just right there. Now, if you think you're going to get immediately into competitions and win a bunch and then get a feature film, tailor your expectations. Because what they are, and from what I've seen a lot of even agents posting about on LinkedIn on whether or not short films are worth it, getting them into festivals to win and stuff like that should not be your end goal. Your end goal should be learning and building a portfolio for yourself so you can get people like, for you, TI, to hire you, because it proves that you can do the work, if nothing else.
Honestly, you made me just remember, you know, I had built a reel in college from the projects I did, and that's what got me Thought Industries, because they could see, oh yeah, she can certainly produce something.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's been the same thing, right? You know, I had music videos I had made. Michael entrusted me to direct some period pieces, some more short films. Mm-hmm. From those, you know, we did more. We did Civil Defense Red Rover, and, you know, that project that we did together has opened up so many more doors, because again, people are like, oh yeah, she can direct, you know, like I can trust her to do this other project then. And it's the same thing. You do have to build up a portfolio, and that's something I'm definitely continuing to do, because there's all kinds of projects out there. You know, even within just commercial world, there's such variety. So same with short films. And, you know, working on my first feature now, it's very much that a short film is like a tenth of a feature. It's all the same components, but it's 10 times that, you know, 10 times over.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, I feel like sometimes with more money, projects can get a little bit easier.
And harder.
In different ways. Because when you're producing on a micro budget scale, everything is a big deal. You have zero money to screw up anywhere. You can't do reshoots. Like, there's always stress of not having enough money, but it also doesn't cost as much money to do things. When you're working on a bigger scale, you also can't waste money, but there is, depending on the budget, I'm not saying this is everything, but depending on the budget, there is a little bit more room for reshoots. Like that's literally part of the Marvel model, or had been, I don't know, based on all the new rules and stuff that are getting put in place, if that will continue to be. But reshoots is literally part of the budget, is knowing that they're going to go back and redo stuff. And you don't get that on the micro scale. So if anything, it trains you to at least have a good habit to try to get stuff right the first time, and for as efficient and little as money as possible. So, you know, there's definitely really good transferable skills there from the micro to the feature length, which is, once again, if that's what you're going into and why you think a feature will, or doing a short will be worth it, great. Just, you know, don't expect to get into Cannes and win.
No.
The entire awards industry is its own animal that I don't even want to touch on today.
That's a whole other topic. They certainly have their value and place in the industry, but it's more of a validator, I would say, that your project really is like worthy of viewership or has achieved something. And I think then people are like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah.
It gives you a check of approval, basically.
Yes. Hopefully a paycheck of approval at some point.
Yeah, that's the hope, you know. It keeps cycling into bigger and more, and you know, indie filmmaking is so fascinating for that, because as you were saying about Marvel movies and reshoots, you don't really have that. You have a budget, and it's usually within constraints, and you have to really get creative about how you leverage that. And short films, I think, are very similar, but that's why those can tend to be big learning experiences and where you can prove your salt.
Absolutely. And do you think that, in your trajectory to where you're at now, because you're close to 6 years now out here?
Yeah.
You and me both. You're close to 6. I mean, we're still babies out here by far, but we're both doing a lot, and we've worked on a lot of things. Looking back at everything you've done to get you to where you're currently at, you obviously did a lot of low paying and no paying jobs. What have you determined to be like a good rule of thumb when deciding which of those are worth it? Or do you think they're worth it at all?
Yeah, for sure. So I take this kind of threefold. One, going back to you gotta, prove you can do the thing to people before they can trust you with more and more money. So to an extent, yes, it's valuable, but to know your worth. I think of it as real resume and relationships when I'm considering any project or job. If money's not there, rate, then it has to be worth it for your real resume or the relationships you're going to build there. And so if it's a free project that doesn't really have all those other aspects, then you really need to consider how worth it really is for you. Oh man, I'm losing my train of thought on that one. But basically,
all good.
You just have to really balance that out. You can't, plenty of people will take advantage of you, and it's not always malignant, the intent, but you have to be honest with yourself, have good boundaries, and there we go, I'm back on it. You have to make this life out here sustainable. So if you're constantly only doing free projects and you're making no money and you can't afford your rent, well, that's not going to work,
Are you saying that LA is expensive?
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. But not as bad as New York rent. My goodness. Every time I'm like, oh, New York City would be cool to live in. And then I see $5,000 for a postage stamp. I'm like, oof. But LA is still a very expensive city.
Oh, yeah. And so you mentioned that you did a lot of jobs, PA, gaffer, camera assistant. How did you find those jobs while you were out here post-internship?
Facebook groups, you start joining a bunch, paid LA film and TV jobs. I'm sure I could name drop a bunch more if I really started looking.
I think you and I are probably in a lot of the same ones.
Yeah, and that's a good starting place. I mean, it is a bit of the Wild West. Again, you have to really suss out if it's going to be a good opportunity, if the people are going to take safety seriously, all those kinds of things. But then once you get one job, and you do a good job, and at the end of the day, you said, hey, great working with you. Thank you so much. Like, can I get your phone number or Instagram so I can stay in contact? Then they hit you up again for another job because, again, nepotism, they trust you. They saw that you did a good job the last time. They want to pay you again. And then it just kind of snowballs from there, and you just start getting inroads in different places. But, social media, I think, has really helped people start to connect where they wouldn't otherwise.
Have you used social media at all to connect with people who you haven't met but you feel like you'd want to work with?
Yeah, absolutely. I will even follow people whose work I really like or appreciate, or who work for different production companies that I would like to get in with. And it's a really great way to keep up with people and to remember them. I mean, even just the other day, I was trying to hire or help a friend hire a second AC. And it was one of those things like, all right, we need them for tomorrow and we need them to be good. Oh, excuse me, not a second AC, but first AC. So, they have to pull focus and make sure everything's in.
Quite important job.
It's a very important job. There's a lot to it. You make sure the camera's good to go, everything. And so I was just literally scrolling through my Instagram trying to find people who first. I hadn't talked to some of these people in like 4 or 5 years, but thankfully with social media and my contacts and things like that, it's much easier to reconnect with people or stay in contact.
And it really does feel good when you're on the side where you can hit somebody else up for a paying job. I can't tell how much I love the feeling of being able to say, hey, can you do this job? As opposed to me having to reach out, because the amount of times when you first move out here and you're like, okay, I need to get jobs. I need to just reach out to people and meet up with people as much as possible. And you want to give back at some point. And when you finally can, it just feels so rewarding.
It's really nice. It's giving back, paying it forward, and just building that community. Because I really don't think this is an industry where you have to compete. There are so many jobs. And really, it's more about building community and lifting everybody up, Yeah. And trying to help your friend out, but making sure that you're always serving the project and the people on it.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess that brings us a little bit closer to today, which is you are now in pre-production on a feature film. I believe I'm correct in saying that this would be your first feature directorial debut?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you talk to me a little bit on how you landed this and what you're doing to get it off the ground?
So, flashback, maybe 6 months. I had heard from a friend who was DPing this project that there was a writer actor looking for a director, and he was interviewing a bunch of different directors and trying to figure out who would really help bring this to life and honor that vision. At that point, there was a good chunk of the budget ready to go. There was a lot of legs under this, so it got me really excited. I read the script, and I just thought, there's something I can really bring to this project. And I think that's the only way as a creative you should really attach yourself to something. If you don't feel inspired by it or feel like you could bring something to it, then you're not doing project service. But anyway,
I could not agree more. That there's certain jobs out here that you can learn right on the spot. Like, oh, do you know how to work the red? Yes, I do know how to work a red. Like, there are certain things you can learn on the job. There are other things when it comes to a creative manner that it just takes years of practice. I cannot write Western films. I cannot write horror films. And if somebody comes to me with one, I will tell them straight up, I cannot write this.
Yeah, and that's okay. It's better to say you can't and be honest than to screw somebody over by trying to do something that you can't do. And then they're like, well, now I'm out of whatever I've just invested into you. So just, you got to do right by the project. You got to do right by the people. So,
yeah.
But yeah, to answer your question, thankfully he liked me. He hired me, and we've been in development and pre-pro ever since, building a bunch of amazing special effects. Everything's going to be done practically. It's a horror movie, so there's a lot of gore. There's like demons, and just it's so amazing.
I've heard the makeup tests are looking amazing.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'll show you stuff behind the scenes that I can't share on here. But Marcel Banks is our just incredible special effects makeup artist, and his studio Anaglyph is just incredible. It's so inspiring, and I think that's just the magic when you have creatives that you bring on board that help bring it to life and bring it together. It's beautiful.
It feels so good when you can lead a team where everybody feels right.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the real sauce, I think, of being a producer or a director, is hiring the right cast and crew for the positions, because it's not an ego trip role. I know a lot of people treat it that way, but it's really leading a team of people that do all the jobs better than you. That's at least how I see it. And I think why I valued early on the experience of working different jobs, so that I could have a better idea of what I'm asking somebody to do and honor, their needs and the things that they would have to do their job well and to lift them up. So yeah, I think that's my favorite part is leading from the back if possible.
Yeah, I very much agree with needing to know how everything is done. If you don't know like what goes into a job, how can you even begin to know what to expect from somebody?
Yeah, or what you're asking of them, and if it's going to be absolutely impossible. Because I've been on that side, right, of having clients, and they don't know, and it's not even like they're trying to ask the world all the time. Sometimes they just don't even know that they are, and I think that's where you really have to lean on and listen to your creatives who are telling you what's going to be required. And it's always a balance of creative, money, and time. That is the other producer triangle to make sure that it's quality and that it turns out the way you want. Mm-hmm. And so I've been very lucky on this one that, we've had just such excellent creatives, and it is just kind of developing in its right time.
You can't push anything faster than it's meant to go. And that's kind of what I've gotten to the point where it's, I don't want to try to punch above my weight class. I just want to do my job and get more and more experience and just grow with everybody else around me. There's no reason to try to insert yourself where you don't belong necessarily, which, you should always try to strive for something, but don't try to, don't put yourself in a position where you can fail miserably and then not want to get hired by anybody again.
Yeah, definitely don't put yourself in a bad position where you can, because that can happen. And talking about, punching above your weight class, I think too, having the humility to realize that you have more to learn. I think that's the endless peaks that you climb in this industry, is realizing, oh, I still have so much more to learn in that area. And like the more you learn, the more you realize what you have yet to learn. And I think it's so beautiful when there's long-term professionals who want to pass on that knowledge. And I've been very lucky to have a couple of those in my life who've been like, yeah, come shadow me on set. I'm going to go shoot this episode of The Boys or Grace and Frankie, and you can watch me, cam op or DP, and how I communicate with people. And that osmosis is, I think, how you can start to level up, at least in just your professionalism and the way you decision make.
Talking about one of my favorite TV shows at the moment, The Boys, is there anything, because you obviously got to shadow somebody on that, which is freaking awesome. Is there anything that you could tell me that you learned from that experience that you feel like would be helpful for anybody else who's trying to get to that point of working on a show like that?
I can tell you two fun little tidbits. One, how I got invited to shadow.
Uh-huh.
At the time, I was interning at Real Boston Camera, and Evans Brown, the DP, was doing a whole workshop on Quasar. I believe he's a co-founder of that company.
Oh, well, then he's doing very well at the moment.
Yeah.
Every music video.
Yeah, exactly. They're great lights. And so after the workshop, I went up and just asked him, hey, I really appreciate this. I think it's so fascinating. And I would love it if I could ask you a couple more questions on what it's like to be a director of photography, a gaffer, et cetera. It's something I have a real interest in. And he was kind enough to, let me have his email so we could chat after the fact. And through that conversation, invited me to come, watch him work for a day up in Toronto. And so my current roommate and I at the time, we just drove up and road tripped and did the whole overnight and watched the magic happen. And we got to walk around set respectfully, out of the way. You got to know how your place on a set so that you're not interrupting the work. And we got to interact with some really amazing crew members of all kinds, the DIT, the camera team, the lighting and G&E team. And there's one quote from the gaffer, Ira, that I'll never forget. He was talking about setting up this huge drum light and turning it way, 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 way up. And it's massive and bright and beautiful. And we were asking him, how did you decide that this was kind of going to be your lighting setup for this scene? And he's like, well, the whole world is lit by one single light and it's beautiful. So why complicate it? And I was like, dang, Ira, you're spitting wisdom. So I think it's just, respect the work, respect the creativity, ask questions, be curious, and you'll figure it out.
That's one of those answers that I used to always get annoyed with, of you'll figure it out, you're on the right track. And the more that I work in the industry, the more I realize why people say that. It's because nobody can tell you officially how they got in. None of us can tell you exactly what we did, other than I reached out to this one person who I went to school with, or knew this one person who I had gone to school with, and they brought me onto this thing, and then I met this person who did this, and now I'm a post-producer. And you're like, okay, well then, thank you. And how do I do that?
It's so impossible. You can't replicate anybody else's path or their life. You can just take nuggets of wisdom and ideas and take inspiration. And that's why I love reading memoirs or listening to interviews from people. Masterclass is something I, invest in, because I just enjoy listening to people at the top of their field talk about their work. And, you just gotta casually ingest and enjoy it and keep working and have patience, because it's not about having that one major breakthrough and everything works for you. Even the people who've been doing this for 40 years still try to get that next job. And, they say you're only as good as your last one, but I think it's also you're only as good as you can keep going. It's about endurance too.
Mm-hmm. And we've spent about 40 minutes talking about basically everything industry related. What's some stuff that you do outside of work that you feel like helps you actually helps you professionally, that you feel like can relate to it, but also too, just helps keep you sane while you work in this crazy, crazy industry that we all somehow love?
That's a great question. I I love to travel. I spent 10 out of the 12 months last year traveling, which was absurd.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I can't do that again. I mean, it was a lot of work, it was a lot of personal, all that kind of stuff, but I just love exploring new places and being invested in new cultures and history, and I love food, language, and just learning about other people and being curious. There was some director who was speaking. I wish I could cite who it was, but they were speaking at an inauguration and they were going over like the 100 things you should do as a director. And so many of them are just experiencing life and, learning and exploring the world so that you can better reflect that in the art. And so travel is a great one for broadening your scope and opening your eyes. But I also think reading has been a nice grounder to just quiet and, listen to somebody else's thoughts for a minute.
I absolutely agree with reading. I get way too stressed to travel, like you just did. I think if I traveled for 10 months, I would not be here. But needless to say, I agree with reading. I'm a huge exercise proponent of getting out of my own head and stuff. And my roommates will attest that my showers are far too long for any normal person. But
I love that. Shower time.
Yeah, look, I agree. I am with my thoughts. I have a waterproof writing notepad in my shower. Shout out to Aqua Notes for anybody who comes up with great ideas in the shower. I go through them like water. They are absolutely fantastic for any writer who writes so many things in the shower. But no, I think that traveling, for all the reasons that you just mentioned, though, is probably a really good, just like you said, eye-opener to the world and other cultures and other ways of seeing things and doing things that you can better, that reflect in artwork, whether it's your writing, your directing, characters you want to showcase, nuances, and just, production design even. You never know what's going to hit you with inspiration. So just sometimes getting out of your room and not watching movies can help you make movies.
Yeah, go for long walks. I mean, one caveat I'll say is travel's expensive. Like similar to college, I'm not going to say that's the end all be all to do that because it's not accessible for everybody. But even just exploring your own neighborhood, taking a path that you've never taken before. During COVID, that was a huge thing that I would do, was go on long walks and just explore my neighborhood because it was the safe thing to do, to just get out, get some fresh air and exercise. And there's so many moments of inspiration in that, as you're saying. You could stumble upon some location that just inspires you, and the way that the light filters through the trees, and then suddenly you have this whole idea that you're like, I have to go home and write this. Similar to your shower thoughts. I think It's just be open to inspiration.
Yes. I all I can do is agree with that. That's about it. And yeah, I get into that argument a lot with people of, I feel like some of my friends who spend the most time watching movies are the ones who also make the least amount of content, whereas my friends who make the most amount of content spend sometimes the least amount of time watching movies. It's this weird dichotomy, and I'm still trying to find the right balance. I don't think I have it by any means, but finding the right amount of time of reading, watching TV, watching movies, getting out and doing things, hanging out with friends, networking, having other projects that aren't film related that you're interested in. It's trying to find time for each one of those individual things that all build you to be a better creative and collaborator, and then filter that into your artwork. At least that's what I found.
My hot take is that you should have a personal life too. I know that many people would disagree with that, but
can you define personal life for me for one
I
second?
know. Who's she? But you were saying, you gotta hang out with your friends. You should spend time with family if you get along with them. I know not everybody does, but family can be a very beautiful thing. Community, exercising, just having hobbies and a life beyond, because it will consume so much, but you will be such a more well-rounded person and more grounded when the work gets tough if you have other things in your life.
Yes. And to finish this off for today, are there any other tips or things that you've kind of learned over the last almost 6 years at this point, plus the additional years of college, that you feel like you wish you had known when you were entering the industry? to help out the next people coming up?
Gosh, that's tricky. I want to think about that one because I think the advice I'd give myself might be different from something I'd give somebody else. But well, let me throw it to you. Is there advice that you want to give? Because this will give me a second to really give it thought.
In terms of me, I would say stop being such a get off my high horse and watch and experience things that I don't necessarily tend to like as much, but I should watch it anyway, even if I know it's not in a genre I necessarily like, or by a filmmaker I don't necessarily like. I should still experience it and see what did and did not work about certain projects, and then just making more time for my own projects. Very early on out here, I gave all of my time to working on other people's projects, because in college you spend so much time working on your own, and I felt really crappy, honestly, about that. And I'm like, okay, my projects are not good enough or big enough that they that they deserve having somebody having this whole team of people work on it. Let me work on other people's and give back to that. And in doing so, I overcorrected and just didn't do enough of my own stuff. So I've spent the last couple of years kind of playing catch up with everything else I should have been doing on my own terms. And that gets hard when you're trying to, balance making money plus a personal life plus trying to get into the film industry. But making time for your own projects is it's crucial if that's what you want to do. If you don't want to be a director or a writer or producer, maybe you don't necessarily need to focus on that. But if you do want one of those types of roles, I feel like making time for your own stuff. And even if you are, even if that's not what you want to do, if you want to be part of G&E team, if you want to be part of camera team or any of that other stuff, there's still a use to just finding your own hobbies and passions outside and pursuing that. Just to make yourself a happier person, because I think one of the things that so many people gravitate towards on set is somebody who smiles.
Yeah. Oh, just a good, happy personality who keeps the positivity and that problem-solving attitude is indispensable. Like, that is the best thing to have on any job. And immediately you will get hired time and again if that's like step one for you. So I could not agree more. And it's funny because, I was sitting here debating what advice to give, but it's so similar for me. And even this week, I just kind of hit this wall where I thought, I give so much time, energy, and passion to projects that sustain me, especially logistically. Mm-hmm. But, you only have so much. And so I've been trying to reallocate that time and energy and trying to better prioritize my own projects and the things that I really want to be doing, because like you, I think I got a lot of validation early on and confidence from working on others' projects, like they could trust me with their baby, like what an honor. But at the same time, I like you feel almost as though I'm behind on some of the writing I would like to be doing or even like learning about certain things. So be intentional is the best advice I can give, and constantly think about where you're trying to go and make sure that aligns with what you're doing.
I think that last part is the gem right there. Find the things that align with what you want to be doing and pursue that, regardless of what it is out here. Or even if you're not working in film in general and you're listening to this, how to get into the filmmaking industry and talking to filmmaking professionals at all ranges of the industry podcast. I think it's true across industries.
100%.
But when it comes to a freelancing industry like this, even more so.
Yeah, because you are your own boss. Yep. That kind of discipline can be tough to figure out, especially if you're a young person, Yes. You're just trying to understand time management and work-life balance and, how to pay your taxes and do adult things. So I get that there's a lot of learning curves to be had, even just moving out to LA, working in the industry, or even if you do work for a production company, what that looks like. So there's a lot to learn in this life.
Always more to learn. That's my biggest disappointment. I can't learn it all.
Oh, well, what a good ambition to have. Lifelong ambition to learn.
Yeah, there's nobody knows this scene because I feel like everybody for some reason blocked this movie out, even though I maintain it has its moments. There's a scene at the end of the fourth Indiana Jones movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where the I think she was Russian lady goes up to the alien, and because it gives her like one wish almost. It's like, what do you want to know? And she says everything, and then it kills her because basically it's starting to literally, I guess, incept, I don't know if that's the right word. It starts to transfer all of its knowledge about the universe to her, and it's too much, and her head kind of explodes. And I feel like that is a perfect allegory to my life.
It's okay to not know things, Everything mystical and magical.
I want to know, Julia. I want to know.
Of course, that's your fascination with space and the universe. There's this infinite unknown.
Oh yeah, I mean, what gives you the indication that I'm into space?
None of your apartment or your things or anything. I mean, I literally sent you a photo of Jupiter today that just came out.
Yeah, what part of my decor makes you think I'm into space? Anyway, that being said, is there anything else you would like to do before we wrap this up? Would you? How can people find you, follow the movie, or anything else that you have going on?
So for the movie, there's an IMDb for We Harvest, as well as a website. We're probably going to get our social media tightened up as we proceed, but obviously our priority is getting the film off the ground. But definitely keep an eye out. Yeah, exactly. Keep an eye out for the website, the IMDb updates to come. And for myself, at Julia Tranfaglia on Instagram. You can look up my website, juliatranfaglia.com, to see more of my work.
I will have all those linked in the description for spelling reasons.
Yes, there are silent G's.
Yes. For those of us non-Italians out there who are very much not good at spelling or anybody's names who is not like 5 letters long.
Well, the beauty of Google Meet is we have our nice little names in the bottom, so that kind of helps too.
Yeah, well, that's not appearing on the final edit here, though. So all of that will be in the description. Well, Julia, seriously, thank you so much for joining, especially on this first episode. I will absolutely have you back, and I know there's some talk about having you on with a tandem episode at some point and doing some more roundtable-esque ones where we just have a bunch of us on to talk and essentially, shoot the shit and talk about filmmaking and breaking in and any of that other stuff as we progress in our career trajectories. So
I love it. This is so fun. Thank you for having me.
Of course. This is Julia Tranfaglia, the director of video at Thought Industries and of films like Civil Defense Red Rover and soon to be We Harvest. Thank you everybody for watching and or listening, depending on how you're viewing this podcast. We're on Spotify, iTunes, basically anywhere where there's podcasts. The video is on YouTube, and we have short videos everywhere else to promote it. So thank you so much for watching the first or listening to the first episode of A Nerdy Journey, and I hope to see you on the next one.
Thank you.